Well, beautiful guitar. Welcome to Zagreb, Croatia. It's actually an amazing coincidence that we had the opportunity to shoot this today because Matt is here and I'm here. This is my town. I was born here, born and raised, but I don't live here since 1990 actually. And by pure coincidence I was touring and Matt was touring and we actually had one day in the agenda to meet, and that was today in Zagreb of all places. And what you just heard actually, so what I picked as a first piece in this video is a piece by Zagreb composer Slavko Fumic. It's beautiful, beautiful melody called Nocturne. It was composed just before the Second World War. He was amateur guitarist. He and his brother Rudolf Fumic, they both, guitar aficionados, composers of lovely pieces. This is one of the most famous ones. Let's say there's a handful, maybe five or six of them, which are, almost obligatory repertoire of anybody from Croatia when they start learning the guitar. They're not too demanding. There's some radio recordings actually from the Second World War of two of them playing their own music. I thought it was wonderful beginning of this video and choice to play this piece. If I was going to tell a few things about this piece and what leads me to phrase the way I phrase or to express the way I express, really pretty impressionistic harmonies, when I go, it's kind of Debussy-like, and this guitar is pretty giving when I want it to sound, and then also high notes can sound really pretty nice, and sustain is amazing actually when you listen. I think I might later play something on the fourth string, another piece. Well, I received this guitar just a couple of hours ago, tried it, put my own strings on, got my own action. I like to dig deep into guitar always, I like to get a sound out and really be free when I try to get a lot of sound, not a volume necessarily, but a quantity of sound, sonority of sound. What I like about guitars in general, they need to be submissive, they need to listen to me, they need to, when I mold the tone, it needs to react to my own, input. The volume, I don't mind so much. I think usually I get the volume out of the guitar. I can get lots of volume of many guitars. But the density, which is what's really good in this guitar, and as I said, sonority and quantity of guitar. What else I like? Let's say when there's some certain harmonic progressions and I want to open the music, when it's kind of, wow, opens up. The guitar has to open up as well. So for example, in Nocturne, what I played when it starts second time, first time I'm here, I can go a bit more pretty, a bit more soulful. Second time, you can really feel how much volume, how much the wood vibrates, right? How it's a richer sound it is. And so it gives me what I ask it. Of course, it's brand new, it can still give much more. And as usual with the guitars, they grow with you. The way you play them, they react. It's wood, it's a living material. So if I play it a certain way, it's going to become that way. It's similar if you live with a dog at home. After a while, you start looking alike. Dog looks like the owner, and owner looks like a dog. It's the same with the guitars. They start sounding like what you like to hear if you spend long enough with them. What else? The clarity of sound and the projection. Some people like, spruce guitars because they're kind of, more projective, or they kind of penetrate more into the whole. I like more cedar. It's darker. Maybe it's sometimes more unclean, but I try to make it clear by moving my hand away. But they give me more warmth. I love warm and soft sound. When I think of a guitar in general, it's a quiet instrument. It's the quietest instrument in the world. It's intimate instrument. I think the general, direction the world is taking, guitar world is taking and guitar makers are taking is to make them louder, make them bigger, play in bigger holes, have carbon strings because they're louder, and everything is going actually away, in my opinion, away from the nature of a guitar, which is quiet, for intimate company, for 50 people, maybe maximum in a hall, not 2,000 people and microphones. It's losing its own identity. Huh? If we imagine Tarega or Llobet, you know, when they played for small crowd, and they got their ideas of sonority and of the melody was for a small community, not for huge stadiums. So we kind of are going away from it, striding away from it, which I don't think is the best direction. Anyway, so this guitar fits me really well. It's a nice cedar. It's a double top cedar. Perfect for me. The Barrios strings. Beautiful sonority. Sustain is amazing. It's pretty good. Yeah, how do I choose my repertoire? It's always a funny question. It's, you know, we all heard is it repertoire choosing us or are we choosing the repertoire? Is the music choosing us or are we choosing the music? What I like, what I can say I like the music that moves me. I like the music that, you know, fills me with certain emotional richness, or can be wide variety of emotions. But it has to kind of, I have to feel fulfilled when I play it. When we think of piece of music, I think each piece of music, we can imagine it as a mini life, right? It has its birth, beginning, and the end, and we kind of living that life together with the piece of music. And the richer that life is, the richer the piece is, the richer our experience is, in simple terms, right? So this is the life of the piece. I think the interesting thing in that life is once it's lived, we can relive it again, as opposed to our own lives, right? And we can make it even different, or enrich it, or change it. Nevertheless, it's still one, you know, each piece has its own identity. And this identity, once I identify with that identity of the piece, or I search for my way of living that piece, I think there somewhere the choice of whether I want to play that piece or not happens, right? We have to identify with each other and live together. Very often, what happens very often, you have to play pieces you don't like. When I was younger doing competitions, it is an obligatory piece, you have to play it, you hate it. Not because it's maybe technically demanding or it's, you know, not your preferable style of music or epoch. It's just because you don't like it, you don't like the sonority of it, and you have to play it. And I would generally have success with those pieces. You know, I would maybe burn the score after I played it in the, you know, obligatory round. But the only way to approach this problem is to fall in love in that piece by force. You have to fall in love. You have to invent your own story, invent your own life of that piece for yourself, so you can give everything you've got when you play it. Yeah? You kind of force yourself to love it, and you play it convincingly. After that, you never have to play it again. Anyway, this is an extreme example with music we love. It's a perfect symbiosis. The piece feeds you, and you feed the piece. So, some pieces I play all my life. For 30 years, 40 years. Jose Sonata, for example, I'll play maybe a few bars. You know, when I start. Or, for example, there's so much happening, and I love it. It excites me. It's passionate. I love passion. It says appassionato. It has huge, you know, mountains of crescendos and huge depths of pianissimos in the second theme, huge contrast. I love living with that piece. I play it since the 90s, 35 years, not every year. I just played it recently again after 5 or 6 years. Many pieces like that identify with me or I identify with them. For example, the piece I played, Nocturne by Fumic, I heard it all my life since childhood, but I never played it. I was one of the odd ones out. Funny things. For example, Asturias, I learned Asturias when I was 48. Everybody played Asturias. Still never played. I'm famous for Bach playing. I used to play full programs of Johann Sebastian Bach. Especially when I was a student, I played 3 sonatas, 3 violin sonatas, or 3 partitas, or 4 lute suites, or whatever, full of programs. My mother was, let's say, she developed a trauma of Bach. I come from a non-musician family, and she would always go, she was proud of my successes, and she would always go, and she had a hard time surviving me playing 2 hours of Bach, for example. I loved it, but I've never played Prelude, Fuga, and Allegro, because everybody played it. And I still haven't played Prelude, Fuga, and Allegro. I know it almost by heart because I heard it so many times, I taught it so many times, I analyzed it so many times, but I've never played it. Never played Asturias. One of my big hit pieces in my competition years was Capriccio Arabe, which I played a lot at that time. This is as much as I can say about the repertoire. If I want to advise the students, they have to go, they have to learn wide variety of styles and repertoires and types of music, bad and good. And out of all of that amount or wide variety, they're gonna find their own story, their own way of choosing repertoire, the way of expressing it later on to the audience. Hungarian pianist Zoran Dukic played in a big hall here in Lisinski Hall, played 2 Schubert sonatas. First half, 1 sonata, second half, another sonata. I was like, wow, this is amazing. You enter in a piece of music and you're, bye-bye world, and you live the 45 minutes with 1 sonata. Huh? And I thought, I want to do this when I grow up. Huh? I didn't really know, in the guitar world, we don't have those kind of, length, at least, pieces of that length. Our sonatas are much shorter, half the time. Our greatest pieces, Nocturnal, is 18 minutes, which seems long, but it's actually minuscule compared to Schubert sonatas. Huh? But I always strive to play longer pieces. Huh? That's also why I made this set of Bach Piazzolla, which is about 40 minutes, no applause. It's always surprising for the audience, but it works really well. Or I play Jose Sonata, which is one of the larger pieces, but it's, barely a 20-minute piece. I love it myself. I love to dig in, forget about the world around me, and stay with one piece of music for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Chacon is great, or any set. I can even make a set of different pieces, but I stay in without a break. Applause in the audience, after every piece can be also, it's nice and it's, affirmative, but can also break the spell. In a way, sometimes. And there's some musicians who in their older age ask audience not to applaud anymore. I just want to come and play and go home, right? So let's enjoy the music and go home. Maybe I'll do it in 10 years, let's see, who knows. Huh? Prelude C minor, I think it's a miniature masterpiece. I mean, the key is original for guitar. Not original, but it's rarely used C minor. You know, we have a Romanza by Llobet, which I also play. But I think it kind of reminds me very much of, I don't know, Chopin? Prelude? I think the harmonic progression, outside of being a typical prelude, which, you know, begins with the establishing the key of C minor, but then moves on in a really beautiful way. I love it so much that, as you heard, I repeat the first half. Even though Barrios didn't put the repetition, I just repeat it. I just want it to last longer. And I think the repetition works very well, in my opinion, and I'm enjoying myself, certainly. I don't know why people don't play it more often. It is a bit uncomfortable, it hurts the left hand, although, you know, if you want to keep the legatos and if you want to keep the progressions moving on in a well-connected way, my left hand gets a bit not tensed, but overworked by the end of it. Huh? But I always put my musical idea in the first place if I want the connection between two chords to sound. I'm gonna go there to get the connection really well. If muscles suffer a little bit, so be it. Advice for students. I mean, whenever I teach, and it's not that often that people come with that piece. I've never recorded it on CD. I also don't play. I mean, I play it for a long time, but I haven't played it in the last years at all. Sometimes for an encore. What people wonder is if this appoggiatura should be much more accentuated. I don't think so. I think we should play it in a simple way. Just simple way. It is a beautiful relationship between these two notes. But I think if we exaggerate too much of suffering, or you know, too much of pathos in this, it's gonna be overdone, let's say, overstoried. Rather think of it as beautiful harmonies following each other. Bass. This is kind of cadence, establishing the C minor, we're back. And now we're going. I don't know why I put a D. Again. Still very typical harmonic progression, I'm going to show you in a second. But then he moves on. We're still in C minor, but it's so gorgeous the way he developed it. Quite uncomfortable jump. Exchange. And now goes this beautiful chord, right? It's really gorgeous. I love it. I still love it. I'll always love it. So let me now lead you slowly through this. First, to explain one thing. If you take any of Bach preludes, for example, right? We again have 1, 2, 5, 1. D minor, dominant, or if you take same thing, 1, 2, 5, 1. Or if you take even, I'm a bit out of tune, I don't know, 2, 5, 1. We have same thing in Barrios. It's not really 2, but it's somewhere there. The functionality would be dominant and back to tonic. And then we're moving step down, right? Very typical. Bach does it as well. He's going to 6th degree here, but okay. If you take other preludes of Barrios, for example, same thing, establishing the key, and then moving on. So I think we should follow more the harmonic progression in this piece and harmonic beauty rather than too much vibrato on this appoggiatura, painful. You can hear it often, play like this. I'm doing maybe too much. I'd rather go here. To give you another example of what I mean about harmonic progressions, when people play, I mean, I don't play it, but I'll just demonstrate. The cathedral last movement, right? And then you can hear it often very, virtuoso and very fast and very many individual notes. People play in this kind of way. I think, again, we should just listen to this. Harmonic progression building up, rather than individual notes building up. In the prelude we have, sure, it's pretty, appoggiatura, but it's not a main protagonist. Talking about harmonic progressions, I don't know, I love jazz, I always loved jazz, and my teacher here in Zagreb, Darko Petrinjak, kind of also instilled in me love for jazz, because he is a jazz, lover, aficionado, and also a bit from my brother when I was growing up. So my love for jazz was developed. I never dared playing it though, multiple reasons. First one, I never felt comfortable. Even though I tried to improvise, I never really felt comfortable because I was so trained in classical world and in classical way and played so many types of music from classical repertoire with different instruments. And I developed that's at least how I explain it to myself, my way of listening to my nearby player to react on him all the time. I'm always notch behind. And in jazz, somehow you always have to be probably in front or just straight there, right? Whenever I play with some new player, for example, there's new projects I play with violinist or singer or cellist or something, they're always surprised how well I accompany. And when I play on a party with friends from jazz, they're always surprised how badly in timing I am. So I always felt insecure. I never played jazz live on stage, maybe a few times, but it's not worth to mentioning. And now for my last CD, which is called Black Bile, in translation Melancholia, I included my own arrangement of a piece by Duke Ellington called Melancholia. I dared first because there's no timing in the piece. It's a free flow piece. Second, I don't improvise too much. All my improvisation, I would just call it freedom rather than improvisation. But important thing also that I, through my love of jazz and also I'm self-taught, let's say, in jazz, because I never studied in a school, but I did then acquire some books and studied them and practiced my arpeggios and my, harmonies and my, inversions. I was deeply trained in classical harmony. Knowing these basics of jazz helped me so much in my guitar understanding, neck understanding. I think everybody should do it. It should be an obligatory subject, probably, or at least, people who are against calling it jazz harmony, just harmony for a guitar should be obligatory subject, because very often you can meet students or young players who are totally lost in the world of harmony. It's not a problem of knowing exactly what chord it is or where you are at the given moment. Let's say jazz people always know where they are, but when you play contemporary music, we can't know possibly. If there's or atonal music, there's no harmony to know. You can feel functionality, but then you have music without functionality, standard functionality of dominant and tonic and subdominant or substitutes or whatnot. There's lots of great music without this aspect being involved at all, and then this knowledge is worthless. I think listening music and playing is much more important than developing it. Or you could put it a different way. Jazz players, especially before, they had no idea of name of the chords. They would hear it, they would feel it, they would feel the functionality. And I think this is important to develop. Very important to develop, to feel. Not knowing really the theory for theory, but knowing and feeling what's happening. Feeling the tension between the chord and the coming chord, relaxation. I always keep, not only me, but everybody keeps saying the same thing that Bela Bartok said. Yeah, it's not problem playing one note. Everybody can play one note beautifully on a piano. Boom, beautiful. It's problem to play two notes one after another, because space between the two is where the secret lies in. And also the space between these two notes is something one cannot write on a paper. It's just a feeling developed between two notes. My advice, always the best advice I can think of, is to respect the note above all. Note is our guide. Note is our, guru. Note is our God. You respect the note. Do anything you can to serve the note, and the next one as well, and then the next one. The note is always in the first place, not us. Sure, there's always ego involved. We're on stage, it's performance. We all know it. Players, actors, singers. It's always ego story involved. But if you learn how to respect the note above all, you cannot miss. You cannot go wrong. Actually, basically, to put the note and the music in the first place. So my little jazz piece that I'm going to perform for you, the Melancholia, it's absolutely gorgeous. Sounds great. I am a classical guitarist playing the jazz piece. I dared once, and I even recorded it. I always was skeptical. Listening also opera singers singing jazz was always kind of, I'm not really sure. Or, jazz pianist playing classical. It's a good, it's sure. Keith Jarrett can do it really well, but I prefer him much more playing jazz, or not to mention other names, many people. Sure, it's nice to know both worlds. I can't do both. Don't even, pretend to. I just humbly enjoy this piece by Duke Ellington. Love it. Yeah, why and how I started doing this piece. Well, as I mentioned, my last CD, the Melancholia, Black Bile, it fits perfectly into it, and it's a gorgeous piece which I loved for many decades, and I just decided to do it. And was there trouble in arranging it? Well, not too much. I mean, you know, I took, of course, lots of freedom. Where Ellington goes with his, you know, octave over the piano, I just do some harmonics and I change it all the time. So does he. I have a few recordings of that piece. It has to sound natural on the instrument. I think always when we transcribe something or arrange something, you know, when we transcribe Albanese, which is typical for guitar repertoire, let's say, it's piano repertoire which we play on guitar, and there are two approaches. One is that try to put as many original notes as possible and try to perform it on a guitar. That's one approach, and the other one is try to make it natural and take notes away if they don't really fit to the instrument. When we think or analyze what Bach did, because he rearranged many pieces for different instruments, he did a brilliant thing, and we can learn a lot out of it. You know, so if you take a famous fugue, right? If you take that fugue, and he wrote it for a certain amount of voices for violin, right? But then he arranged the same piece for organ, and he put like 6 voices in. That's 4 in violin. So I can, organ can, so let's put it on. Let's put more. When he arranged pieces, let's say, for example, for cello, there's some pieces by Bach for lute and for cello. He simplified the cello version because lute can do more. So he was always adapting his music to the instrument. I think that's the best way to go and best strategy to go. So if I'm playing piano piece, I'm gonna simplify it for the guitar, make it sound natural. It shouldn't be difficult, or not unnaturally difficult. I'll tell you later about a few things I'm doing in this simple piece by Ellington. You can find people playing Albanese pieces and with so many notes, but it becomes so uncomfortable. So when I teach my students, what I always advise them is to go for a simple version. If they want later to add more stuff, sure, you can always do it. You can always change. But let's start from the point where we can focus more on music rather than squeezing in as many notes as possible. Segovia was a great example. You know, he was the first in most of these things. Libet was a great example. But there are nowadays many arrangements which are quite belonging more to the other, let's say, wave of thought. When I said you do something difficult in Duke Ellington, I don't know if you've noticed, there's some really cool harmonies, you know, major minors and stuff, but also what I can do, because I'm kind of double jointed, right? All right, so I can sometimes do bars with various fingers, so I don't know if you noticed this really cool chord. Not many people can catch this chord, huh? So when you go, and this thumb, this major minor chord, right? Or a couple of options and a couple of weird decisions I did, because I can do it and I can get more notes in just because of the color of the chord. It's so special. Once is this, once is this. We're both major and minor note in the chord. Given the key, again, I adapted it to the key which fits better to the instrument. So I put it in, you know, D with drop D, beautiful. I even forgot, I think he's in D flat, original, as I can hear. About transcriptions or on transposing the pieces, again, we can learn from Bach. You know, he would just transpose them in different key. He has same fugue in A, same fugue in G, same fugue in D. As they say, the key is important because, of course, every key has its own, you know, ambience, its own power, its own emotional charge, or its own, you know, structure even, you know, its own tuning depending on the type of tuning we use. Every key is different, obviously, but that's of the utmost importance while the piece is being created or during the creation of the piece. Once piece is completed, the key, does have a relevance, obviously, right? But it's not of paramount importance, I would say. Of course, if you go to very remote key and in temperate tuning, it can be a bit off. But if you go to natural key for the instrument, if you change something from D major to A major, sure, it's different, but it might fit better to the, So I would be quite flexible there. I tend to be very flexible, always putting music in the first place rather than a key, putting the note in the first place rather than a, I don't know, technical difficulty. So many things, it opens many doors, this way of thinking, I think, to me at least. All right, so I have cassette tapes of myself singing when I'm 2 years old. I can barely pronounce the words. I'm just singing all the time, every day, singing. I have really actually 3 cassette tapes, but 2 hours of material of me singing pop songs from the radio. And I come from a non-musician family, but people kept telling my parents, he has to go to music school, he just wants to sing all the time. So when I was 5, they sent me to music school. There was no space anywhere, so they put me in some kind of a ballet group. So I was starting as a ballet guy. I was the only boy with like 10 girls. I still have some recollection of that, because they said there's no space for, a guitar teacher's class in my local music school. And I was doing that for about half a year. And then this guy passed by and saw me, and I was dressed in a tutu, it was a girl outfit, right? I was 5 and a half, and he said, what's going on here? And I told him, well, he wanted to play some instrument. My mom wanted me to play accordion. She comes from Bosnia, it's a folk instrument there very strongly, but accordion or the guitar. I said, I'd rather play guitar, I didn't know anything, I was too little. And then the teacher said, oh, come on, this is ridiculous. The guy cannot dance at all. He's, with all the girls, I will make space for him. And actually, that's how I started playing guitar, by pure chance. He had space, and then I started playing guitar when I was 6. I stayed with the same teacher for 7 years, still occasionally in touch with him here in Zagreb. After that, I went to music high school. We have really well developed music education here in Croatia. Fantastic, actually. Still from the old regime, the system with the music, preliminary school and then high school and then academy. I went through it, the regular procedure, all of those. So, primary school is 6 years. Then secondary school is 4 years, and then academy is 4 years. So, but I started quite early. So by the time I finished the high school, music high school, I was in my regular high school. I was just entering 3rd year, because in the regular education, the primary school is 8 years, whereas music school is 6 years. So I was actually already at the academy, at the university, when I was 16, 17 years of age. Still going to high school, but parallel, I was all the time in school and playing my guitar. It started really well when I was little. So this teacher sent me to a little mini competition when I was 7. I already got some prize, and my mother was happy, and my mother was always with me, making sure I practice. I remember I hated practicing, so and since she was not a musician, my teacher would tell her, okay, he has to repeat 5 times each piece, and then she would go with a little chalkboard on our table, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, next piece, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I was a bit older, when I was 10, I would pretend I was practicing. I would put comic books behind the scores. So when she would enter, I would cover my comic book with the scores to pretend I'm playing. When she would leave, I would just read my comic book, obviously, right? Yeah, but thanks to my mom always being on top, controlling whether I practice or not, I guess I developed. I think, and I always keep saying, I'm really grateful I started so early. Even though the great musicians who started later, I think something with dexterity of the fingers, but also something about what we talked earlier about feeling the progression of harmonies feeling the 4-bar sets, feeling the architecture of the piece. It all stems from all those, little carcasses and aguados and soros and Giulianis that I played dozens and dozens of them, or hundreds, let's say. Of course, going through so much repertoire, going through so much chamber music, playing the little duos, trios since I was the age of 8, 9, 10, 11, all the time was great. I remember when I was 9, we had first the guitar trio. And then playing with other instruments. So Croatia is a beautiful country in so many ways, and one of the maybe top ways is the way it treats music, classical music. There's really lots of culture, lots of great musicians, lots of great teachers, and lots of respect towards classical musicians. So this also feeds the artist in us. Ideal place. Croatia is beautiful in that way. That helped me also. And then when I went to academy when I was 16, so I graduated when I was 20, and then I went for postgraduate studies to Germany with Hubert Kappel. And I stayed there and stayed living out of my own country since then. When I was like 14, 15, I got myself first electric guitar, because of course I like, pop music. I started with pop as a pop musician when I was 2, right? In my music high school, my teacher was a bass player in one of the most important pop bands of Croatia, Parni Valjak. And my brother was very much into a hippie culture and the 60s and, and listening Bob Dylan. So I picked up from him there. Bob Dylan is my favorite and my idol, let's say. My hair comes from Bob Dylan, not from Slash, or I don't know who people think it is from. My first daughter's name is Sarah, after Bob Dylan's song. So Bob Dylan, is still my favorite artist of all artists. That aside, I cannot say particular musician influenced me. I guess it was just the way I started loving music. So I played electric, and then it was really difficult to enter the academy here with Professor Petrinjak, right? It was terrifying. Too many people, being applying and being at the entrance examination exam. Many people coming out crying, even, failing. And I said, if I pass the exam, being so young, I'll become classical musician. If I don't pass the exam, I'll become a rock star. There's many guitarists. There's many great guitarists. Level of playing developed tremendously. There's still a place to go. But also the number of guitarists grew. And it's difficult for them to, come to the surface, from the pot of great guitarists. The receiving and perception of music changed with internet a lot. I find myself already, even though I'm in spirit, I'm young, but somehow times have changed so much, I cannot really understand my own students, nobody owning a CD player, and yet they all themselves want to record CDs. And I tell them, you want to make a CD, but you don't have a CD player yourself. Who's going to listen to your CD? So I just made another CD myself, number 10 or whatever, 15 last year, right? And I'll keep making them. But I think the times have changed so much, and I'm not really sure what the way is into the future for young musicians. They have to present themselves online. They have to be visible. They have to be promoting themselves. I'm supposed to promote myself. I'm really bad at this. I never did promote myself, and my career would probably be in a different way if I did. But I cannot do it, and I just play my guitar, and what happens happens. I don't have a website still. I don't even have a website. So how can I advise young students? Do make a website and be present at all times. Internet times are quite brutal because you make one thing, make a video, and then 1 week everybody watches it, then it's forgotten. Totally, because so much new things come. So it's a bit difficult for new generation. I think the only way, also when talking to friends, we tend to agree, is to create your own, shall we call it, island, a part of YouTube, no Spotify, no nothing, because they're all too big and they don't care about you. You have to create your own thing in some space, I don't know what that space is, and put your music just there. I think so, I don't know. In Asia it's also again different, but it's even more difficult maybe, right? to make yourself known. Our classical guitar world is a niche, so beautiful niche, and lovers do find, guitar aficionados do find what they like, but they are also sometimes overwhelmed when they start searching. It's just so much information, so much input, it's difficult to, see the tree from the forest. Yes, so from that point of view, I don't know what to advise the career developing view. From the artistry developing view, of course, I have much more to say. But as I said before about the note and putting music in the first place, developing your ear, playing with other people, playing as much repertoire as possible, not trying to make 2 pieces perfect, but rather play 50 pieces not perfect. Perfection will never come. Perfection is some weird ideal we strive towards, but it doesn't exist, right? And it's maybe a wrong ideal as well. We can never be perfect. We're all human. We all make mistakes. We all play. One day we play this way, the next day we play a different way, and they say, no, this piece has to be this speed. No, it doesn't. It depends on the space you play in, depends on your own mood. It's a Thursday afternoon or Monday morning. It's a different life, right? As I mentioned, the mini lives of each piece change as well. So do our lives, I know myself when I play, for example, Jose Sonata for 35 years, I played very different then than I play it now. I played Bach Chaconne also all my life, it's growing with me. I cannot say now I play it better. I play it different. And in 10 years I have no idea how I'm going to play it, but it's not going to be worse. It's going to just be different. So just search yourself, be yourself, and music will come. Yeah, I used to play very slow pieces, very slow. I think today I play them faster. In direct comparison with some movements I can do with slow movements, I play them faster. Fast movements, did I play them slower? I don't know, prestos in my technique developed at a certain time in my late 20s, let's say, and it's kind of established and I can do my stuff that I can do, super fast. The stuff I can do fast, I can do it fast. Doesn't matter if I practice or not. It's just there, somehow established, right? I develop some new techniques, always search, always, change and develop, and rather develop or open horizons rather than change technique in general. But I could not pinpoint. Also, my listening has changed. What I'm hearing for. Before I was worried more about noises on the guitar and tried to clean it up, and now I don't care so much about that. I was worried more about tone production in this space, trying to do this. Now maybe I also care less about that. I care more about general, perception of the piece or hearing the piece in space, which I didn't think about when I was 20 years ago. So I want to play good and clean and nice and emotional. When you're young, you're also more of a lion, more of a passionate, more of a hungry, more excited about everything, and more energetic, right? And then when you get older, you get more experienced, more wise. I don't know if that's a good word. Let's call it like this. Also, it's always a good way to explain. There's always passion and there's always reason, and they always kind of have a fight between themselves. The balance is changing. Sometimes you're more passionate, sometimes you're less passionate, sometimes you're more reasonable. So it's the same in playing. You always have to develop your passion, and you have to let go, and you have to be exciting and play with full heart and full soul. But you always have to also be aware of what's going on. You can't let yourself go fully. So 90% passion, 10% reason, or the 70 or be very reasonable and never make any mistakes, but then passion is lacking. You have both are good. I don't know. Old Greeks talked about this. Old Greeks said there was a fight. There was some personifications of, figures personifying the passion and reason. They had a fight. Nobody won. Right? You can't say which one is better, which one is worse. So maybe in life terms, this also changes this bit balance. I get in zone on stage. I think once I get on stage, I get in zone. But my idea, let's say important concerts happening, my concert day, I'd rather not see anybody. I'd rather have lunch on my own, which is not always possible. I always have a sleep before. I have to have a sleep. I have to break the day in two. So I have a lunch and then a sleep. And then again, I don't want to see anybody, but you have to go to the hall. You have to meet people, organize. And you go to the room. So I have myself in the room. I go on stage. I don't try to play much on stage. I just check the lights and chair. I play a lot in the morning. I'm not really a big practice man. I don't practice a lot. I practice when I have to. Practice. But on the concert days, I practice a lot. So I wake up in the morning, I practice 3-4 hours. I play through the program once or twice. I really practice. And then I have lunch, then I have a sleep, then I go on stage and play. And so my fingers are in top shape. I warm up a little bit after that afternoon nap, which is often 90 minutes, 2 hours, even if I can. Totally break. I wake up, I have a shower, I go on stage. When that routine is not possible, I very often notice that I don't function as well as normal. Or when I have to play matinee concert, I hate matinee concerts. I'm a night guy. I go to bed at 2 a.m. I wake up at 10. I love that. When I teach in my school in The Hague, I start at 11, never earlier unless I have to, unless there's not a way. 11 is the earliest point I want to start working. So my ideal concert time is 8 in the evening. Perfect. The other day I had to play somewhere at 12 o'clock with live streaming, which also I dislike very much. I don't know what to do. I wake up and some breakfast, they go on stage. It's weird to me. Right? So I celebrate every concert. It's it's not just I'm just going to play another concert. I think every concert is a celebration. It's a beautiful meeting between people, audience, and the artist, and the concert hall, and the music, and the composer. And I get high from concert. From the music, from experience. It's not just any old day. It's a special day. So if I play 50, 60, 70 a year, there's 50, 60, 70 special days. It's beautiful. And then you prepare 3 days for that concert. The year is full. Yeah, so the piece you heard earlier, it's published. The complete works of the brothers, Fumic brothers, it's been published here in Croatia by my old teacher, Darko Petrinjak. Beautiful edition. Complete works, nice preludes and some really gorgeous pieces, such as the one I played. Particular thing about these two brothers, they're really in a pre-Second World War in Zagreb. There was not much happening, classical guitar-wise. So they're kind of really a miraculous thing happening in Zagreb, and there were plenty of recordings, radio recordings of them. And one actually most exciting story, just to finish. One of them was in partisans fighting Germans in the Second World War, and he had this brilliant musical idea, but he didn't have any paper to write it. So the only thing he could find was a little parchment of a parachute cloth. So he actually wrote music on parachute cloth, one of these pieces for guitar. Isn't that wonderful? So if you can, play it and enjoy it.